unfortunately with Chivo, what sort of frustrates me is that they weren't upfront, right? Like there was no upfront, we might randomly KYC you. And now I'm obviously making a presumption, and their answer to that, which is no better than my presumption, is that, it was a glitch in the system and we have to KYC you to make sure that it is your transaction. And it's like, no, just complete the transaction. Like you don't have to know who I am to complete the transaction. But their response is, oh no, it was a glitch, so we have to. And it's like, okay.
Excited to have Nicki and James back with us. I don't know if you guys realize this, but you are the first people that have done 2 shows on the Bitcoin Beach podcast. So thank you guys are the groundbreakers.
Great, thanks.
Awesome. We're stoked to be back.
I was trying to remember how long ago that was that we did our first show. I think it was back in December, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I recapped it last time.
So for those of you who did not see the first show, you might want to go back and watch that one first. We're going to be talking about different things, so it's not necessary, but I think it might be interesting for them to see kind of where you guys came from. I think, Andy, was that show 8 that was the first one? 8. Okay, perfect. So go back and watch show 8. But thrilled to have you guys here and to get some updates on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you.
We've been busy.
What's happening?
Yeah.
We have been busy. It's actually really surprising when we started thinking about what we've done in the last 8 months. It's been quite a lot.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I think last time on the show, we were talking about your car travails of trying to buy a car. Has that been settled and are you still having issues or is it okay?
It's been
everything
great.
Smooth.
Yeah. It's been very reliable. We gave it its first service a couple of months ago. One of the local guys who's into cars has done that for us.
Yeah. Bitcoin Cars.
Yeah, Bitcoin Cars. He's on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Richard.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So he's moved here, and his passion is cars. And yeah, so he's actually tomorrow we're going to see him, and he's going to get the air conditioning done for us and the headlamp. One of the headlamps have gone.
So is he? You said he's on Instagram as Bitcoin Cars. Is
Yeah.
he on Twitter at all, or just Instagram?
I'm trying to convince him to be on Twitter.
Yeah. On Twitter. So yeah, if for people who live in here and are looking for somebody to work on their car, look for his Instagram account.
Yeah, and he also helps people buy cars too, which is quite cool.
It's a huge help.
Mm.
And then living wise, you guys were living in San Blas at the beach.
Yeah.
Give us an update on that. Are you guys still there? Have you been happy? Are you tired of sweating at the beach?
We have an update. Yeah. So last week we actually, in the last month or so, just over 6 weeks, we've been a whole heap of things have happened. But Berlin, and not in Germany, but here Usulután in El Salvador, there's a little town called Berlin, which was founded in the late 1800s by German people, and they called it Berlin. But they've started a little circular economy, and we spent a little bit of time up there. We were like, we went for my first Bitcoin graduation, and then we decided to go up for another weekend to have another look. And one of our friends contacted us and said, hey, do you guys want to pet sit for 2 weeks? And we were like, serendipity. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. And we went back last week to sign a lease for a house.
Yeah.
So we're going to move.
So you guys leaving the beach?
We're leaving the beach. Yeah.
It's exciting.
So is that because you don't enjoy it there anymore? You just want something different, or people are always asking, where should I live? So
it's quite interesting. The heat, you don't realize that I suppose initially you find it really hot, but then you sort of get used to it. But then all of a sudden, when you're working and you're thinking, the energies, your body is using so much energy to keep yourself cool. And we're at that point now where we're going, we need to focus a little bit better.
Yeah. In New Zealand, you're often like using energy to stay warm in the winter. But here, it's like 12 months summer and you're using energy to stay cool. And you could either use air conditioning, but we also find it hard on our bodies. So we've tried to just stick with fans, and it's time for a change. But it's not just the heat. I mean, we want to try a different community, different areas. El Salvador's changed a lot in the 18 months we've been here now.
Even longer.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's been a rush into that area that you guys were living there in San Blas that they saw your videos and people from around the world were like, okay, we've got to go be their neighbors.
Yeah.
Have you seen a lot of changes?
Yeah. Yes, for sure. It felt like a ghost town when we first moved in because it was basically like just for holiday goers. Like a lot of them were holiday homes, but I think it was also like the post-COVID thing. So maybe there weren't many people in there, but
well, I think even just historically, those houses, they're family beach houses, so they might use them one weekend a month.
Yes.
And so, especially during the week, it's a ghost town. But even on the weekends, it's not that busy. Yeah. But now it's hopping.
Yeah, kids, skateboards, dogs and cats everywhere, and there's a lot of activity in there, like daily activity. Even like not just foreigners, but we think there's a few locals that have moved in as well.
Yeah, there are. There's definitely locals who've moved down from San Salvador and they're homeschooling the kids. And
yeah, I heard there's some type of homeschool co-op going on there. Have you heard anything about that?
Yes, there is. Deanna and her husband, I can't remember, they just moved in from the United States and they're setting something up. They haven't quite set it up yet. Joel, that's it. There you go. Yeah.
We'll have to get them on. Because that's another question people with kids ask is, what about schooling?
So. So they're going to be starting something up soon. Yeah.
And have you guys made a number of friends in the community there?
We in the beginning we used to meet everybody, and now we don't. There's a lot of people there that we. Nicki bumped into somebody this week.
Yeah, a French family arrived and moved in. So and
they were like, "Oh, hey, we want to meet you." To Nicki.
We'll catch up before you leave because we heard you're leaving. But who knows, we've got time.
How has that been overall, leaving your home country and moving across the world, as far as the degree of community and kind of interactiveness you have? Has it been lacking? Has it been more than you were expecting? What's the...
I'm trying to think you talk.
I'm happy.
No, I'm happy. Yeah, absolutely happy. I think community-wise, I mean, you always miss your girlfriends that you've got really good relationships with, and it takes a while to actually build relationships like that. But everyone is so friendly. I mean, it's really easy. It is very easy to move here in that sense.
And I get to talk more Bitcoin than I could have ever dreamed of. Like, I didn't get to do that in New Zealand. So the people I get to have conversations with here, I can't compare it. Completely different worlds. And right now, I am living into the opportunity that El Salvador has given us, which is to freely use Bitcoin unencumbered, from a tax or legal perspective, as a legal tender. And I mentioned this on the last show, and it still stands that the opportunity that we have to use Bitcoin as legal tender in this country without the weight of tax burden or any sort of other weird social or society norms. It's cool. I'm excited. I play with the technology. I got some of this here that you guys are playing with as well. I love contributing to the wallet community. I'll give feedback to the wallets I use on a regular basis. And for example, the Blink team, I've got a couple of really good connections in there now. And I'm surprised that they don't, I send almost daily, regularly stuff on the weekly. Hey, I found this, or it'd be cool if it did this. And sometimes they're already ahead of it. They're like, yep, we're on it. Other times it's like, oh, we missed that one. Thanks. So for me, I'm happy. Yeah.
And Berlin, is that where they had the first mining setup that they were doing, where they have the geothermal plant?
Yeah, it's very close. Okay. Yeah. So Berlin houses a lot of the geothermal engineers. Yeah. And then from the Mirador, which is the lookout, you can actually look down to where the what do you call it? They've got a dam. They've dammed up the thing. They must have a hydro plant down there.
Yeah, there's a hydro plant, But you actually see the geothermal plant.
You see the geothermal plant. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, they must have some type of water source, I'm assuming, to create the steam energy. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's cool. Yeah.
So tell us about what's happening in Berlin. And I think we have some photos or videos. I don't know if I went out of order on you, Andy, but...
That's okay, yeah. Well, we
Berlin. I think one of the big things, or one of the options of moving up to Berlin, is the fact that we've been in, San Blas, and it's a gated community, and all of a sudden, in Berlin there aren't any gated communities, so we are going to be living with the local Salvadorians. The team of Salvadorians there who have started to accept Bitcoin, it's definitely a grassroots up or bottom up approach, and we're really the excitement that these businesses have is amazing. They're just, all of them are excited. They get together once a week to plan what businesses they're going to approach and who they're going to talk to. And each have got goals and aims, and it's really amazing to see. And it's,
How big of a community is Berlin? Do you know?
There's approximately 30,000 people.
Okay.
But I don't know where they are. I don't know. You sort of look at
scattered in the hills there.
I think so.
And it's kind of mountainous.
Very mountainous.
Coffee country.
Yep. Yes.
1,000 meters up.
Okay. So it's kind of nice and cool. You get about 10 degrees cooler than it is at the beach.
Yeah. Yeah. Nikki regularly pulls up the weather app and she's like, wow, it's only 14 up there. It's definitely, it feels like a place of four seasons, like you have a day of four seasons sort of thing. It can be hot during the day, and then in the afternoon it starts raining, but the temperature change is really noticeable. Comes down rapidly. It's cool.
So are there other expat Bitcoiners there? Are you like the first ones moving in there? Or?
So there are other expats there. We met them when we met them on the graduations that we went to for my first Bitcoin. And so they basically saw what we saw, which was this community that was building by the locals. Yeah. And they moved there like the week after graduation. I think Rams moved there about a week after graduation. And then Charlie turned up in Zonte, spent a little bit of our time in Zonte, and then he's moved up there too. Yeah. So there's only two others.
Okay.
So it is still,
but a number of people have passed through to check it out because it's getting a lot of talk time. Like a lot of people talking about it in the chat groups, and they're very proactive in what they're doing. And a lot of their proactiveness is actually for the local businesses. So we're not on Facebook, but they are creating the Berlin Bitcoin group. They are creating ads for the businesses that they're onboarding, and then they're putting them on the Facebook group. And what's happening is the other businesses are seeing these things on the Facebook group because they're all on there, and they're like, "Where's my ad? How can I get an ad?" And they're like, "You got to download a wallet. You got to get on board.
Start accepting Bitcoin." Yeah. But it's not even that. It's the fact that they are trying to beautify the township as well. So off their own backs, as a community, they are painting the town square and cleaning it up and doing all these things to attract tourists, to attract people to come and visit, because Berlin is sort of feels like the sort of the younger sister or the poor cousin. That's it. The poor cousin to Algeria, which is just about a 5K away. And Algeria is known for the tourism, and it's known for being really pretty, and it's got the lake and all this sort of thing. And Berlin is sort of like the poor cousin.
It's the working man's town for the geothermal engineers, where there's a pretty tourist town next door. But there's a photo in here somewhere where there's the lady in the dome. So what happened was Gerardo and Evelyn, this lady, she's originally from Berlin, and she won a competition third in El Salvador for her singing. And
this one. Yes. I was wondering where that came from.
Yes. And so the guys actually painted the steps. So they painted them the Berlin flag colors, but they organized for her to come up and give this presentation. And she was stoked that her hometown had invited her to come and do this. And we were there that week. Well, I mean, we took a photo, but we were there that weekend, and we had no idea that they'd organized this. And the community that turned up and then just started dancing in the square and everything, it was awesome. Like there was a really cool vibe, and the community spirit is.
Yeah. So this is like it was on a Sunday evening, and on a Sunday afternoon, the town square is just filled with families. So there's eateries and there's trampolines and carts, and then this was the sort of for the end of there.
And so you guys have signed a lease there. This is going to be your new home.
We're committed.
And I'm assuming it's a lot cheaper to live in that area versus being at the beach? Or
Yes.
Am I wrong? I don't know.
No, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
The quality of the houses is definitely lower.
Yeah. They're more modest homes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been looking for a while to try and find some stuff, and the guys up there have been super helpful to help us find something. And it's been challenging to find something that generally, one of the things that we've definitely noticed is cinder blocks being built directly into soil is not necessarily the best idea. They're not putting great drainage or insulation between it. And that's the thing that we noticed the most about a lot of the homes that they show us is the dampness coming through the walls. And I don't know, we've been paranoid.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, concrete's very porous. And so you have that battle. That's what I found. And a lot of times they'll do that. Instead, the wall of the house is kind of the retaining wall,
Yes.
built into the back. And so actually our most latest construction we've done, I'm always like, no, dig it another couple feet back, put the retaining wall there, then an open space, then the wall. Otherwise you just always have that dampness and it always just smells a little off. And it's part of the reality. Obviously it's cheaper to do that way. But that's something for people that are coming to build a house here. Talk to your contractor and make sure that they don't build with dirt touching any of the walls, because even if they tell you that they'll seal it, you're always going to have issues.
Yeah, for sure.
In fact, the house that we live in now that we bought 20 years ago, usually we weren't there in the rainy season. The first year we showed up in the rainy season, and I come down in the morning and literally there's a river flowing through our living room, and it's like a waterfall going out the steps. And it was actually coming through the back wall. Because the other thing you'll find here is they don't do slabs for floor. And, the newer homes they use thicker concrete. But on ours, it was literally this much concrete on top of the dirt and then tile. So it was just coming up. And so we had to tear the whole floor out and pour a slab in. And it was a learning process. So if you're going to build a house here in El Salvador, definitely consider drainage, because we get an insane amount of rain here.
Yes, for sure.
So, yeah.
But you were able to find something.
Yeah. We've found something which we think, we're happy. Yeah. We're going to give it a go.
Yes.
Yep. So we officially take the keys on the 15th. So yeah.
Next Friday.
Yeah.
And you've sorted out your internet, what you need for work.
I've got enough internet to work, but not for our live show. So, but I'll probably upgrade it. Yeah.
So have you tried the why am I blanking on now?
The Starlink?
Oh, no.
It works very well. We use it at the place down in Punta Mongo.
Right.
And it's fairly reasonable. I think it's $50 a month, which is what any high-speed internet is probably going to be more than that, or about that same price.
Yeah.
I think the unit itself is $500, but then after that, it's $50 a month, and very impressed.
Wow. Okay, yeah, because in New Zealand it's 160 New Zealand dollars a month, which is probably easily $100 US dollars. So that's significantly cheaper than I thought. Yeah, I was just going to get fiber. They do fiber up there at the moment. The house that we've got, it's got cable sat, which it's horrible. It's okay for work, but it doesn't do the job for live streaming. So, but we can get fiber up there. That was the most important thing. Yeah, but I'll look into Starlink. Yeah.
Well, I have a feeling next time you come on the show, you're going to be telling us about all the people that have moved in to Berlin. And, followed you guys up there.
Yeah. Well, there's it's getting a lot of interest and traction. The people businesses are seeing the tourists turn up, asking questions, spending money, to the point where some of the businesses, one of the stories that they told us this week when we went up was that one of the businesses chased down one of the guys after he'd been there to do some remote work. And every time we do something similar, which is every time we go to a business, even though we know they don't accept Bitcoin, we ask if they accept Bitcoin. And this one time, the last time he went, the business owner, the staff member said no. And as he was walking down the street, the business owner must have heard that he'd asked to pay for Bitcoin and chased him down the street and said, I want to learn, please help me. And it was wow. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
I love what's happening there because it's all being driven by the local Salvadoran community.
Yeah.
This Bitcoin circular economy just springing up in a very organic and natural way. And, obviously it's helpful to have expats and other people come in and support it, but they're really doing being driven
absolutely.
by,
And the Chivo machine really has cash in it. So they can't actually just go to a Chivo and get cash out.
Yeah. So they're actually circulating
the coin. Yes, absolutely. And that's which is pretty cool in that sense.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Well, that brings me to another question. What have you seen change in the last 8 months since we were here, as far as being able to use Bitcoin in El Salvador and it truly being a circular Bitcoin economy where you can live on a Bitcoin standard?
Wow. Well, we're pretty much living on a Bitcoin standard in terms of we receive our income as Bitcoin from our remote work. And then we will spend as much Bitcoin on services using things like BitRefill and some others to pay for bills, but we do have to go back to cash.
And the BitRefill, just for people in other countries, here you can actually use it to pay your electric bill or your phone bill, and so you're not having to buy gift cards for those things. You're directly paying for it.
And Del Sur now too.
Yeah.
We had that conversation last time.
Yes, they had Del Sur, the electric company, on, and then they yanked it, and I was bugging the BitRefill guys, like, what's going on here? So they finally got that back on.
Yeah, they have. And I'm gonna show my Ditto Bank card.
Hopefully we're getting him on this week, Guillermo from Ditto Bank.
Yeah. So this is actually a MasterCard, which we can load it with Bitcoin on chain and Bitcoin Lightning, and then we convert it to USDC, 1% fee to do that, and then we can use it like a normal debit card at any normal fiat point of sale rail that accepts NFC cards. So it's got the chip in it, and also credit card depots and ATMs. So, and there's 3 more local banks that allow us to get the cash out for free. They don't charge us. So that has been a game changer because so there is a KYC for that. We needed to have some sort of Salvadoran ID to be able to get that. We used our residency cards, and that is a more reliable source of cash for us at the moment than, for example, we were big users of the Chivo machine, and we've cut that back dramatically. And we cut that back after we got spot KYC'd. So we've been using it for almost a year, and then out of nowhere, a small transaction, $100, which was nothing compared to some of the transactions, would take rent out, which is like $1,000. And we got spot KYC'd, and it took 2 weeks to get the money. And
I definitely want to dive into that. Yeah, but let's first focus on this card.
Yeah.
And within the Bitcoin community, there's a lot of mixed reactions to these type of bridge technologies because people say you're not really spending Bitcoin, it's not circulating, it's being pulled out of the economy, which is true. And so I think even the people that issue these would say, no, these are a bridge. This is for people to, till all the stores are taking Bitcoin. This allows people to continue to live on a Bitcoin standard. And so I think it's valuable for us to have those tools. But obviously, and I'm sure you guys do this, you push to be able to actually use Bitcoin, do Lightning transactions. And this is kind of a fallback for, when you just can't do that.
Yeah.
What's going to happen when we go to Berlin, this is going to become a lot more obsolete for us. So down here at the beach and in town, we need a lot. Just
a lot of restaurants we go to, a lot of
random, sometimes random payments that we have to make. Even some of our experiences. One of my biggest gripes has actually been about paying for government services here in El Salvador. The one time we got to pay for a government service with Bitcoin was for our latest renewal of our residency, and it was such a poor experience. I'm like, El Salvador should be a example of the Chivo system, especially in the government offices. And it was, the staff weren't, the lady was lovely. She was super friendly and nice. But she did her best with the Chivo system. and she didn't have the ability to use Lightning. And I know the Chivo system supports Lightning. And I'm like, why do the government services not provide this excellent experience? And then by the time the transaction went through, it was $1 short. And she's like, we have to do another transaction. And the fees were like it was when we were paying 50 sats per virtual byte, and it was like $5 a fee. And I'm like, I'm not paying $1 for, $5 for another $1. I said, here's $1 cash. And I'm sort of ranting a bit there, but yeah, our experience here has been frustrating at times. I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love it. I love the fact that we can do this, and I want to push for it. But I also want to be in a community that's like excited for this. And we had that in Berlin, where we can, the restaurants we go to, all the services we go to, like we went to a car wash expecting to orange pill the guy, and he's like, no, I accept Bitcoin. And even the Gerardo and Evelyn who were with me, they were just like, what? Like, they were blown away. They're like, whoa, you accept Bitcoin? And he was like, yeah. And he pulls out his wallet, and it was so cool. There's such a different vibe there for us, we're here for adoption, right? Like, we didn't travel this way just to half-ass it.
Even the lawyer, when we signed the rental agreement, he sort of was offering his services. We needed it, and we said, do you accept Bitcoin? And he said, of course, So,
and we said, okay, got a deal. And if I need services, I'll come and use you. And as we are here, it always seems to be such a, like, when I say here, I mean at the beach or in the city, so much resistance. And I get it, but if we can be in an area where
in San Blas, there's still a lot of resistance there.
Yeah, for sure. Like, when we go and buy our vegetables in Del Puerto there, like, okay, we've given up asking, to be honest. We ask occasionally with some of the people that we spend money with regularly, but they just shake their heads and sort of laugh at us like we're the crazy people. But in Berlin, we go and ask the people enough, and eventually they say yes.
Yeah, and I do wonder if it's because there's not many foreigners go and visit Berlin. And so when you've actually got sort of all of a sudden there's new money coming into the city, and if you've got people who are coming and saying, well, we want to spend or pay with Bitcoin, they're sort of going, they're kind of interested, they're not sure about it. And then, of course, Evelyn or Gerardo would go in the next day and go, oh, would you like to learn about Bitcoin? And they're going, oh, well, they have these people coming. So it's kind of got a little circle happening.
And Gerardo and Evelyn, they were my first Bitcoin teachers for a bit. So they've done the diploma and they've taught it to children. And now they're up there basically talking to all these business owners, and they've organized themselves. Like, these guys they're organized. It's cool. Like, a movement. I
am sad to say I have not been to visit Berlin yet, but it's definitely on my list. So maybe once you guys are there, then you can give me a tour of the town. But I've heard lots of great things, and that's what we need. We need these kind of communities to spring up that have this kind of natural adoption. That's kind of what we saw in El Zonte to some extent early on, but some other communities you don't see that in. But I think over time, as the money keeps flowing to the towns that are accepting Bitcoin, you're going to see increased adoption. And it may take a few years, but I get frustrated. I want it all to happen overnight. And then every time I leave and go somewhere else, like go back to the US or go to another country for a conference or something, I'm all of a sudden my eyes are open to like, wow, there actually is a lot of adoption in El Salvador, because I'm used to being able to do everything that I want to do in Bitcoin, and go to these other places, you can't do anything in Bitcoin. And it's kind of, okay, we need to keep this in perspective. We are further along than anybody else by a wide margin.
Yeah.
You're right. And we are biased because we haven't left the country since we arrived. So
yeah, true.
It'll be an eye-opener when you go and you're like, wait, nobody accepts Bitcoin in these other places? But I do want to get back to the Chivo thing, because in our original podcast, we were talking about some of the challenges with Chivo. And just for the record, I'm not anti-Chivo. I think it's an important part of what's happening here. I want a wide variety of wallets to be used, but I think the government role, and a lot of Bitcoiners would get angry at me saying this, but I do think it's helpful for them to have that. I want it to be successful. But I have had so many frustrating experiences with Chivo and feel like they're actually holding it back, because they're actually one-upping the banks as far as being obtrusive and obnoxious to work with. So we've had numerous people with their accounts frozen, and they want all this information. And we're not talking, tens of thousands of dollars. We're talking like normal, just day-to-day things. And so if they're trying to get people to switch from the banks and start dealing in Bitcoin, but yet you make it harder than the banks, we're supposed to be fixing the problem of the banks, and they're like replicating, but even making it worse. But I had not heard of the shotgun KYC at the ATM. So explain what happened to you.
Oh, I just want to riff on what you just said there just before I go into that, which is, I agree. I really want this to work. And I think there's a beautiful example for, as a foreigner coming to El Salvador to use the Bitcoin experience, like they have the system, and I'd love to have a great experience at the government services. That's why I'm here specifically. And then, oh man, I've lost my train of thought there with what I was going to go into. Oh, damn. Okay, sorry, I've lost the train of thought.
That's what happens when we get old. So.
Yeah.
But as far as just the ATM, being able to use that, and especially like you're saying with government services, you're like, it's the government, and you're not able to pay easily with Bitcoin.
Yeah. So when we went to the ATM, we're taking money out regularly for rent. So we're regular users, and then there's just one time out of nowhere, $100, and I get KYC'd. Like basically the money doesn't come out, and you think, oh, maybe it's just because the on-chain transaction is slow. You give it a day, and it's like, no, something's not right. You can't.
So it gives you a code with a little a piece of paper with a code saying you have to try later or something like that?
Yeah. Well, it gives you the standard.
Or does it say to contact them?
Well, it gives you the standard, please wait for the confirmation, right? And that has all the support information on it as well. And there's a gut feeling you have where it's like, yeah, this isn't coming. Like I'm looking at the transaction on the chain. It shouldn't take this long, especially if you put cash in. When Chivo pays you Bitcoin, they pay the high mining fee. So it generally happens really quickly. And they're probably batching their transactions, I'm assuming. So it should go out in the next block. Exactly. And so when you get to like 2 to 4 hours later, you're like, yeah, my gut's telling me something's up. So you give it to the next day. And so you've already wasted a day, and it's over $100. I could have just been working instead and made the money. But you contact support and you're like, hey, my transaction's stuck. What's going on? And then they give you an answer like, oh, yeah, let me look into that. And back and forth. And eventually they're like, oh, yeah, no, we'd love some ID from you before we give you your money back or your Bitcoin. And it's like, what? And so from my perspective, I mean, with the DittoBanks card, I've been KYC'd up front. I'm okay with that. And I get quality services. For the Athena ATMs that are here, I go there, I pay a higher fee, 4 to whatever percent, depending on how much you take out. And I know that's the fee, that's the price I pay not to be KYC'd at those machines.
I think they do over a certain level, but I think it's, it's a pretty high level. It's
not $100.
No.
And then unfortunately with Chivo, what sort of frustrates me is that they weren't upfront, right? Like there was no upfront, we might randomly KYC you. And now I'm obviously making a presumption, and their answer to that, which is no better than my presumption, is that, oh, it was a glitch in the system and we have to KYC you to make sure that it is your transaction. And it's like, no, just complete the transaction. Like you don't have to know who I am to complete the transaction. But their response is, oh no, it was a glitch. So we have to. And it's like, okay.
And several other people who have had this same experience.
Oh yeah. There was a real spate of it earlier in the year, and to the point where those people, they don't use the Chivo ATM anymore. What's happening is the peer-to-peer market is growing which
is awesome.
It is awesome. Yeah. I mean, I'm all for that, right? Like, don't get me wrong, but Chivo are doing a disservice to themselves. Oh, I know what I was going to say before, because it appears from my outside perspective, I would say that the Chivo system has been infiltrated by fiat banksters who are imposing their KYC or their expectations on it to really make it look bad deliberately. That's my that's my perspective from the outside when I'm watching what's happening. Because I'm like, even banking's not as hard as Chivo. Like, why is it getting this hard? This is stupid. And I think it's because maybe the right people aren't in control of Chivo right now. And this is just me giving my 10 Satoshis on from an outside perspective. But it sucks because I want it to be successful. I want it to be a shining example to the world. I wish that El Salvador is spending all this money at the moment and time and effort in educating the up and coming generations to be like, hey, we've got the engineers who can write the Bitcoin code and everything like that through the Kubo program and the Kubo Plus program and My First Bitcoin and the other things that are coming up. And the shining example of technology, and this also goes for the mining, like I wish those things were better shining examples, and I believe they can be the beautiful shining examples, but I believe that they don't have the attention that they deserve right now. And I understand that the president also has bigger pressing issues on his plate, and maybe that gives the opportunity for other people who have other agendas to get in there and do things. But it just seems sad from my perspective and frustrating.
Well, like Bukele said on Fox News that the disintegration of the U.S. must be coming deliberately from within. We could say that same thing about this because it does. You feel like, are you trying to make this fail? I've dealt with the banks here and they're horrendous, but they're actually better than you guys. You guys are flagging small level transactions, just people trying to do business. And we're trying to convince people, hey, the banking system's broken, start using Bitcoin. And then we get in a situation where they're worse off because their funds are frozen and they want documentation. Sometimes it's not even possible to present. And yeah, it's frustrating. You lose. I mean, I've spent hours in the Chivo office trying to get things resolved for other people that I had said, hey, do this, it's better. And then they got in that situation. So we definitely need to get this fixed because it is leaving a black eye on what is happening here. And obviously there's much more good than bad, but this is one thing it's like a what do they call it? A cell phone where you're just like, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And instead of this being something that we could all be celebrating over. So I hope maybe some of the Chivo people are listening out there that we need to get this resolved because you can't make it actually worse than the banking system. You can't make it stricter than the banking system. I mean, we've had even construction things with contractors saying, yeah, we'll take Bitcoin, and they say, here, put in my Chivo wallet. And I'm like, okay, let me tell you, if you do this, there's a good chance it's going to get flagged because, it's a moderate sized amount and it's going to be a lot of hassle. So I would recommend using a different wallet. But they're like, oh, but this is the easiest wallet for me to use because it's integrated with my bank account. I'm like, I understand that. It's in theory, it's amazing, but in practice, it causes a lot of headaches. So hopefully that's just growing pains. Hopefully they'll resolve that. But it's frustrating that it's been this long and it seems to be getting worse instead of better.
That's how I feel. I have very similar feelings. And when you were saying, if anybody's listening, I know Lorenzo at Athena, he might be an interesting person to talk to. He puts a lot of posts online, which are I like what he does. He's very upfront. But it's almost like you do need somebody inside Chivo to stand up and say, hey, these things are wrong, instead of it feels like there's some, like I've been an independent contractor for a lot of my life, and there's been a couple of times where I've worked family business. I've either worked in a family business, been an independent contractor, and there's one short period where I worked for a big organization, and I was so unhappy. And it was because of the top-down structure that really I don't know how to explain it, but it's this horrible feeling where you really feel like you've got no power, and you can see problems because you're at the coal face and you're like, this is wrong. Like something needs to be done, but no one wants to hear it because they don't want the problems, right? And I feel like that might be what's happening in Chivo. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But I would love to see it'd be a shining example because there's stuff that's built into it. Like it's actually got lightning built into it and it works. And it's a little bit slower, like the transactions are slower, but it's there and it works and it can be turned on. And like at the government offices, I know that I've seen the web interfaces with the point of sale. I mean, crikey, Super Selectos has the lightning input.
And that is one thing that has been a big improvement. So I will give Chivo an attaboy on that because it used to be horrendous. But now, as long as the cashier knows what they're doing or is willing to listen to you, it's actually a pretty smooth process.
So I know that Chivo has the technology. Yeah. So there's a management problem and an implementation.
But a lot of these things don't even seem, before it was like a technology problem and there was a lot of the bugs, but this is like their KYC AML policies that they're pushing that are more stringent than the banks, that are basically going to dissuade people from using Bitcoin. And it's not because they're doing something illegal or trying to get around paying taxes or anything like that. It's just they want stuff to work. And if you get, every time you try to do a transaction, it gets flagged and you have to spend hours trying to get it released, you're going to say, forget it. I'll just use the banks because at least they don't do that to me.
Yeah.
So, or at least less often.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully that will get resolved. But there are a lot of other great wallet options and companies that are kind of springing up into that niche and are meeting some of those needs. So one you mentioned was Ditto Bank, but we also have, so it doesn't seem like we're just all being negative here. Let's play the clips from PriceSmart. So I love that story.
All right. That's a selfie of us abandoning our trolley of groceries.
We were naked.
Hey Athena, I'm at PriceSmart and I'm using the point of sale system.
Maybe we don't have volume here.
With RBF turned off, I paid the higher fee for the miners, and unfortunately the network's busy due to the pumps and dumps that are going on. Unfortunately, this experience where we've been here for 15 minutes now waiting for a transaction, it frustrates the staff, it frustrates the people behind us, and it frustrates the Bitcoiners who are trying to make this work. And I really want this to work. Like, I'm for you guys and what you're doing, but I can make a transaction at the Chivo ATM with RBF turned off and get cash instantly, but I can't buy my food with your point of sale system. Come on, guys. Like, let's pick the game up. Let's really make this awesome for El Salvador and Bitcoin.
So this is, you're talking about, Athena was the company that provided the point of sale there, which shout out to Athena. I love Athena. They believed in this project before anybody had even heard of Bitcoin Beach. They sent the first Bitcoin ATM there. So we are definitely supporters of Athena, but their system sucked when they first rolled it out. I mean, it was horrendous. And I had that same experience where you go to pay for something there and you're just standing there, with your hands in your pocket for 4 hours while you're waiting for this thing to, well, you're smarter. You actually left.
But it still took 4 hours.
Yeah, so but you don't know how long it's going to take. And so you're just like sitting there and, your milk's getting warm and then obviously we're committed Bitcoiners, so we're going to go do it again and try to make it better. But most people, if it's their first time, they're going to say, well, that was horrid. I'm never going to do that again. But you posted that, you pushed on them. And so I'm going to give you the credit for making this happen, because a few weeks later you went back and
we had this experience. Yeah.
Let's
Lightning, paying for groceries. All right. Okay. Yes.
Boom.
Yes.
Much quicker than 4 hours.
It was so
We did
good.
it. We finally did it. We got Bitcoin Lightning at PriceSmart. Good work, guys.
So shout out to Athena for updating that and implementing Lightning. And actually now their POS system works very well. It's pretty slick.
They've actually been smart about it too. So what was funny was I was having trouble. There was a pushback saying that it was my Blue wallet, and there was something else. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, if it's in the mempool, in my mind, it's there. Like, don't blame someone else. So Athena, I reached out to Athena. They responded, and they're like, actually, we've got a rollout that's coming in a couple of weeks. I'm like, oh well, this is convenient timing. Like, this will be perfect for a video. So their point of sale system, what they did is they have a direct Athena API, and then they've also gone and put in the Strike API as a backup. And I think they've even got the Chivo API in there as well. So that point of sale system is really smart, because we've had experiences where their API has been slow, but the Strike API super fast.
Yeah.
And so we know enough. The staff are learning as we have these experiences, but we know if that API doesn't work, we're like, do it again, but let's switch to the other one inside the same point of sale. And so, yeah, they have put out a system which has backup systems in it, and it's a huge improvement. That's awesome. We love spending money at PriceSmart.
So it can feel slow, all these advances when you're living here, but when you kind of pull back a little bit, and I mean, you just see the huge strides that have been made in the last.
Oh, yeah. Great.
We're coming up on 2 years tomorrow for the anniversary of when the law went into effect, and so this is the most advanced systems in the world as far as Bitcoin usage. This is actually the learning laboratory for all these Bitcoin companies. El Salvador adopting Bitcoin is what drove Lightning growth, even through this bear market, where Lightning companies have had investment coming in. They've seen huge increase in usage and customer base in a bear market. And so it's amazing to be living in this country, that this tiny little country that nobody cared about before is now the one driving this innovation worldwide.
Yeah.
Oh, it's exciting.
It blows my mind. I mean, we've had a bit of a whinge about what's happening with the Chivo system, but if you look at what's happening with the independent developers, it's exciting. It's super exciting. There's a number of them that are listening and that are proactive, and they are that, you look at what's happening with the Nostr community. The Nostr community has pushed the wallet developers another level, where they've had to work out ways to make reverse transactions and things, and be able to authorize transactions out of your wallet and stuff like that. These NFC cards that are coming out, all of these things are pushing.
El Salvador is ground zero for the NFC cards. I mean, we have Isla Paria, Bitcoin Island, as I like to refer to it, where, we've rolled out a number of these machines. People are used. I mean, I think there's more machines in El Salvador than there is anywhere, and it's a tiny country. So I don't know where else you could roll those type of things out. And for the companies, it's a great learning. They see what works, what doesn't. They can come back and revamp things.
Yep.
I was a skeptic of the cards at first. I was like, why do we need a tap card? Are we just trying to replicate the banking system? That doesn't make any sense. It's people don't really know what's going on. They're not really using Bitcoin. And then as we started using them, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. We don't have to worry about if all the people we're working with have smartphones or have internet at that time. Just the store needs to have internet. It's another challenge is, most families in El Salvador have a smartphone, but a lot of times it's only one. And so the rest of the family can't spend Bitcoin. But now with these cards, it's very easy. And you can kind of send your kid off to school with, 20,000 sats on their tap card, and they can buy their lunch. And it's, it makes life a lot easier for us.
There was even a girl at the markets the other day, a daughter.
You can say, I mean, they've been on your show.
Oh, Tom and Emily, one of their daughters, yeah. So she had her pocket money on her card, and so she was allowed to go and spend it at the markets, and it was great.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
It was so cool watching.
The biggest thing was actually the vendors needing to have the NFC on their phone.
Yeah.
I think because some of them, the phones aren't quite capable for that. But of course, you've got the point of sale systems. But,
the other systems, and I think I think most newer phones have the better capabilities. So that problem will kind of solve itself as those older phones age out. But I love what you were telling me earlier before we started recording, that when Fernando did the workshop at the Adopting Bitcoin conference, he gave everybody a card and helped people put sats on them. And you actually spent those sats, I think, on Bitcoin Island, right?
I did. I certainly
at the festival.
Yeah. Well, can we grab that video? I ended up editing that video, but we went. We didn't go for the festival. So this was after the graduation in Berlin. They did one day in Berlin and one day down at Isla Paria. And they had the point of sale systems there, and I knew they had them, and I'd specifically loaded my card for this.
So there's Sam there in the background. They were just on our podcast last week. I love Sam and Quentin. They're amazing.
Muy bueno.
Yeah, so smooth.
Yeah.
And it's only because them out there on that island doing that effort and training people. It doesn't. It definitely takes a lot of work. I don't want people to be naive and think, oh, it's just easy. You just spread these machines around.
Yeah.
This was a persistent educational effort by Quentin and Sam to bring the community on board. And I'm bummed you guys missed the festival. I was out of town also. I had to go back to the U.S. during that time, but I heard it was amazing.
Yeah. The photos and things looked good.
Yeah, it looked really good. I mean, those guys, that looked like some awesome organization went into it. We'd just come back from 2 weeks in Berlin, and we were like, oh man, did we? Because there's just so much on. But like Sam and Quentin, like they're awesome. Like we're not sure we could live on the island.
No,
to be honest.
It's we had a buddy of mine, his, I think 22-year-old son was down, and he's, surfer, likes to go on, these adventures, and he's pretty rough and tough. And we took a boat out to the island, and after we came back, he's like, whoa, he's like, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
It's like, I think when I was in my 20s, I would have seemed very exciting. And I did a number of things when I was young like that, but now, like, that's, the sleepless nights when the power goes out and the mosquitoes are eating you. But you need people willing to go in there and be the ones that are kind of groundbreakers. And as the island develops, the accommodations will develop, and it's so beautiful. It will one day be, a place with lots of luxury retreats and an amazing place. But right now it's still in the early days. And that's how Zonte was when we came here 20 years ago. It was still, pretty rustic.
Yeah.
It hasn't come along.
Yeah, it's my hat's off to these people that are out there that are pushing these technologies, because same thing. Like you say, I think they're on Starlink down there. Yeah, and often they're on a generator or batteries, and so to make this work is impressive. And the cards are awesome because I guess the phone needs internet, but I mean, if you're on the mobile data network, it's okay. You can make it work. It's cool. Yeah,
and it's nice because only the business needs to have the internet. You don't have to have each individual, because they're paying the kids to pick up trash on the island, and most of the kids don't have smartphones. So it's an easy way for them to get that up and going. I wanted to talk to you about your newest venture, and I think you brought me a little present.
I did
here.
bring a little present, yeah.
So how did you get into making soap, and then not just soap, but making it from beef tallow?
Yeah. Well, one of the things when we arrived, when we were living in New Zealand, we had a Saturday morning market, farmers market, and that's where we would buy our soap. So it was always handmade soaps that we would always use. Coming here, we found it very hard to find a quality handmade soap. And then when Owen from Beef Back Better started doing his meat, I said to him, what are you doing with your tallow? And of course, he was selling it for people wanting to cook with it, but that was about it. And I said, I really want to try and learn to make soap with it.
So explain to me, I don't even think I know what tallow is. So I thought it was like the bone marrow or something.
No. So tallow's the fat around the stomach organs.
Okay.
So it's all the fat. So what happens is Owen sort of brings all the stomach organs home with him, and what you have to do is you have to boil it up for 24 hours, and then you have
that kind of rises to the top.
Yep, fat rises. You strain it, and you have the blocks of tallow. So he was selling those, but every so often he'll go, "Oh, Nicki, do you want to do the whole rigmarole?" So I think the times we've done it 3 days straight for 24 hours, we've been boiling this fat, and the house stunk. But what comes out of it is this amazing product. And I mean, it's amazing to cook with, but it's also really, really good for your skin. So I looked up and found recipes and how to do the soap making. I was always interested in soap making, back in New Zealand anyway, but I hadn't done it with tallow. So yeah, so I
know people have made it with the lye and that process. Is this
it's
totally different, or is it?
No. So you still do that. So you've got your fats, but you still need your lye.
Okay.
So sodium hydroxide. So that was one of the biggest hurdles we actually had, was you can't get food grade sodium hydroxide here in El Salvador, or very, very hard to come by. So I ended up looking in the United States, and we found a supplier there.
Does it need to be food grade?
Yes. Well, you're putting it on your skin, and your skin's going to absorb it. So, yeah, I mean, you don't want to put caustic soda that you put down the toilet, whatever, to
it's
clip
a drain.
up.
It's actually a drain cleaner. It's pretty cheap at the supermarket, but it's not pure, so you don't quite know
what's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's far better when you're using it on your skin to get food grade. So we found a supplier in the United States, and we were able to get some testers in to try. I then found somewhere here in El Salvador who also supplied it. Now in the United States, you can, for $15, you can get 2 pounds. The guy here was trying to sell me 2 pounds for $150. I was like going, it's just not going to happen. So that's okay. So you need that process. So you need the process of the water lye, but then you've got your fats. And so what I've done is I actually got put it out there, and I had about 5 or 6 women interested, or families interested in being my guinea pigs. So I did 4 different batches, and so one with just 100% tallow, and then I did 2 other batches where you had 60% tallow, 20% organic coconut oil, and 20% organic olive oil, and then essential oils, of course, with that.
Okay.
And so it was different.
And does that have a different effect on the skin?
Well, the main thing is the actual lather. So tallow, if you have 100% tallow soap, it doesn't really lather. Okay. And so even though it's really good for your skin, I found a lot of guys like 100% tallow, because they, especially if they're carnivore eaters, they just want the fat sort of thing, if that makes sense.
You're not washing in fat, though.
You're not,
it does actually become soap. It's a different product.
Yeah. Whereas the girls sort of definitely wanted the soft lather. So I've ended up doing majority of mine, actually the mix. Though I recently, at the first market, I had a guy come and said, look, I want 100% tallow, and I don't want any essential oils in it. So I have done a batch that's sitting at the moment. So once you've actually made the soap, you have to sit it, or on the racks for 4 to 6 weeks. So within,
because if you use it too early, it burns your skin, right?
Yeah, for the softification. So you need it to go through the process. So all the sodium hydroxide gets pretty much evaporated out. Yeah, and breaks down. So yeah, and it's fun. And then
I think you brought us a gift, so I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, and while we're in Berlin, there's this great guy there called Don Julio. Now Don Julio,
look, it's got the Bitcoin logo in there. That's pretty amazing.
So there's a guy called Don Julio up there who does a lot of sort of wooden gimmicks. Now he had little key rings. Now, and I was looking at the key rings going, oh, that'd be a great stamp. But as soon as you push it down, of course, the B's going to be back to front. So he had Bitcoin. And then I saw he had one that he'd put on backwards. And so I thought, perfect. So I bought that. And so I used his key ring, because he put it on backwards, as the stamp. So, yeah. So it's great. And then so I've ended up, I got really good feedback from the people who tried it, and I've started selling it at Bitcoin Farmers Market. Yeah.
And can people buy it online at all, or do they have to come to El Salvador?
At the moment they do have to come to the Bitcoin Farmers Market. We are looking at putting it on the webpage. Not that I would, around El Salvador's fine, but I don't think I'd be sending it.
Yeah. And what are those? What do they run?
What do they cost?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I do sell them first up in stats. So you're looking...
Well, of course, I'd be disappointed.
And so, of course, that's going to change depending on what the Bitcoin price is. But if you're looking at today, you're looking at about, for one, 23,500.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, and I do a slight discount when you're buying 2. So, yeah.
And the farmers markets every 2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks. So it is again this Sunday down in Zonte at the Los Amigos, Los Amigos. And then, so it's every fortnight on a Sunday, starting from 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But I do suggest you get there early, because people sell out. Like my Bitcoin soaps, because that was the first time I put my Bitcoin suits out last week, and they pretty much sold out. The ones with the bees on them. It was amazing. Yeah.
Well, I heard there's a sourdough guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a guy or lady, but
seaside sourdoughs, amazing.
They
really
sold
good.
out
they're
quickly.
really quick. They're from the Netherlands. James
is Owen there? With
Owen,
the beef?
Yep, beef betters, beef's there.
Does he sell the tallow there to cook with?
Well,
or have you bought it all up?
I buy it all up. Because Owen's been away, they haven't actually been processing the tallow.
Okay.
So they've been giving it to me, and I process it to make the soap. So I think when Owen comes back, he will be doing it.
Well, I'll try not to steal your tallow.
No,
but I would like some to cook in to get away from the.
Yeah, though James is selling the pork lard.
Okay.
Too, so you can get James's pork lard there, and his meat his bacon always sells out.
I have heard that.
And Kiki's butter goes as well. Yeah,
we've been using that in the coffee.
Yeah, it's great.
In the coffee.
Yeah, we're doing bullet coffees.
Nice.
Yeah, we cook in beef tallow lard, and the butter goes in our coffee. Perfect.
So
that's this Sunday that they're having another
this
one?
Sunday. Yeah. No, but
I was away for the summer, and that's when they started it. So I haven't actually been to farmers market yet, but I've heard lots of great things.
So we missed the first two because we were in Berlin, but we've been so impressed how quick they're growing, and the people who are turning up, and the wares that people are selling. It's amazing. In fact, there's been people from Berlin have been traveling, like it's a 3-hour drive.
Yeah.
And they've been coming from Berlin
to come down.
Yeah, Charlie's actually been pretty committed.
Yeah,
so he's one of the foreigners that's moved in, but he's coming. He comes down, and he often comes down with some of the locals. So he's come down with Don Julio, who did the stamp and the woodwork. Last time he came down with the guys who've got a restaurant, Coco's restaurant, and they set up to do a full grill with burgers. So they ended up using Owen's beef for the patties, and they were frying the chips in beef tallow as well, I think.
Yeah, or lard, I think pork lard.
Pork lard. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of. I know James wants to expand it to be all sorts of things, because there was clothes, and there was even electric motorbikes.
Yeah, there was electric motorbikes.
Which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were people even just selling. At the moment, James is being really generous with what he's doing there at the moment. Now's a great time to get involved and be part.
Well, and that's a lot of work. Those things don't just happen. So shout out to James for taking that on.
Yeah. I mean, they hire the tables. They get the tables in for people. So we bought our own table to have there, because that's just, I suppose, what we thought we'd need to do. But yeah.
So it's an awesome community builder, that one, and it's we're really impressed with what they're doing.
Yeah.
We enjoy going, and the things that are turning up, the coffee, the food, as well as people. Last week there was people selling just secondhand stuff that they wanted to get rid of just to buy sets. And then there are people who are there's a lady making cushions.
Yes.
Which is cool.
Yeah. And cacao, a couple of cacao people, which is always really good.
Charlie was selling his drone services as well, which is cool. So if anyone's got an idea and they want to sell stuff, we actually had a guy reach out to us this week via our social channel, and he's like, "Oh, I'm coming. I don't know what I'm going to do. I found an online job, but I need more work." And I'm like, man, and he sent me a photo of his wife's or his girlfriend's paintings, and I'm like, go to the Bitcoin farmers market, paint Bitcoin stuff and sell it there. But I think if people had services they wanted to sell as well, like if anyone was getting into martial arts or stuff like that, I mean, maybe people doing ice baths, that would be that'd be cool things that people would love to see there and do. So if anyone's interested in selling stuff in El Salvador and creating themselves a business, this is an awesome community, because everyone's really interested in what the others are doing and supportive.
Yeah,
it's cool. The community is really cool.
I think that's what makes it so special living here, the Bitcoin community, but also just the local community in the place. The combination of those two together make it so special. And a lot of people remark that they feel more at home here within a year than they have in their home country, after decades.
Yeah. There's a common bond that's happening, and it's cool. Yeah. Really cool.
So being here, you guys have been here 2 years?
Not quite 2 years. So
over 18 months.
Yeah,
we're right in February. So what's that? We're at 9 months now. So there'll be
Just 7.
Yeah,
So we're about 19
a year and a
months.
half.
So you're way past the honeymoon period where it just seems amazing. You've gone through, I'm sure, the frustrating period where you're like, why do they do things like this?
Yeah.
And you're probably out the other side of that, like, okay, some things here are different, but overall, it's an amazing place to be. What would be your assessment, of living in El Salvador and having decided to make that move after a year and a half? And what would be after that? What's your assessment of current Bitcoin adoption and Bitcoin circular economies actually existing here?
Oh, wow. Great questions. The Bitcoin side of it, I don't know where else you'd go in the world. I know that there's other communities out there, and I know there are people who have said that there are other countries where, there's adoption happening, maybe underground, without the government support and things like that. That's cool. And I wish, I support those as well. I'm not knocking that. I mean, it may sound a bit cavalier with that, but I think it's awesome, and I think they're important. And that's something that I've said. Like, you don't have to be here in El Salvador for Bitcoin adoption. Bitcoin adoption can start wherever you are in the world. That's what's awesome about it. And the advantage of being here is obviously that it takes the regulatory weight off your shoulders. But if you want to stay where you are and live the life where you are, then and find ways to get around the regulatory things, because it's possible. It takes will. And just like we're seeing will come here to live into the hope, that's all it takes. But so from that aspect, that's cool. It's awesome. It's great. We don't have another place we'd want to be in terms of Bitcoin adoption right now. In terms of lifestyle,
it's different, but I think you've got to come here with definitely no expectations and make what you can from it. I think it's all growth for everybody coming to a country, that's like El Salvador, especially coming from a country like New Zealand. But it's a great experience, and it's I think since we've been here, so much has changed. The growth is huge, and the people are getting excited. We felt that people were quite concerned and quite reserved and quite quiet, but more people are doing things, and as in Salvadorians,
the economy is booming here. I mean, it is.
Yeah, and it's great to see. And
everywhere you go, construction and new things coming in. It's. I keep thinking, man, it's going to slow down at some point, but it just feels like it keeps accelerating.
Yeah, which is exciting.
Yeah,
I don't know if it will. I'm going to pivot a little bit, which is that because we put out a weekly newsletter. And we try and highlight 3 things about what's happening in El Salvador and Bitcoin. And right now, if Bukele's a dictator, he's doing a real rubbish job, right? Like, he's busy educating the next generation of Salvadorans to be sovereign individuals. He's empowering them. Like, how many dictators?
In all the public schools. That's been a fun thing
right.
to be a part of that with Me Premier Bitcoin, of putting together that curriculum. Paco, who's here in the studio with us, was one doing a lot of the work for that. And so they're actually having an inauguration for it tomorrow morning in Usulután, kind of
awesome.
Close to Berlin.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you're saying, you call him a dictator, but he's teaching people how to be sovereign individuals.
Yeah.
And so that is so cool. That is so powerful. Oh, damn, I've had all those senior moments where I forget where I'm going with it. But I'm going to go back a little bit because I know I was pivoting there. Going back to your question, which is, we have thought about leaving, not leaving like to leave El Salvador, but our residency, we have 4 months a year that we can go and tour around. And we have asked ourselves the question, should we go and live in one of the other C4 countries for a month, like go get an Airbnb and something? We've never been to Latin America before.
Yeah. So
this is all new to us. And we didn't do that in the first 12 months for sure, because we were establishing ourselves. We're like, we've moved, we're living here, like, let's get settled and figure out what's going on. And now we're actually asking, what do we do? And this, before we decided on Berlin, we were flip-flopping between, maybe we just go get an Airbnb in another country for a month or 6 weeks.
Go spend a month in Bitcoin Lake in Guatemala.
That was on the radar.
That was on the radar.
Yeah. So these things came up. But then the opportunity in Berlin came up, and we're like, you know what, let's just carry on with what we're doing. It's cool. So
I think you guys are going to love it because you're going to be more integrated in the community with kind of the people that are living there. Like San Blas is beautiful and nice, but most people there, it's their vacation homes or they're foreigners. So you guys are going to be living the Salvadoran life there in Berlin, and the weather is just amazing, and it's a beautiful place. So,
and it would be great for our Spanish.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Those 2 weeks we were there, our Spanish, it hit a good bump.
Yeah,
yeah. So we're excited about that as well, and that's one of the things that they were talking about as well. Is I know the tourist dollar seems like an easy win, but they're very conscious of that up there as well, and they do want to try and bring in like work. So if they can. And we've been talking about doing things like lessons, like Spanish lessons and English lessons, to try and bring in.
I think there's a huge market for that because there's not a lot of Spanish school options, and people come here, they want to do that. And it's quite honestly, it's more pleasant to learn that in the mountain environment than it is at the beach. You're just like, I'd rather just lay by the pool. But there you actually can study, you know, have your coffee and...
We know a number of the people here are doing lessons with Evelyn and Gerardo.
Yeah, so they've actually already started doing online classes, lessons, so you can book lessons with them.
Awesome.
But
it's always better to do it in person.
It is, yeah. Because you can. What I found up there was I was able to go and meet with one of them and have a coffee, and we just sat, and it was more of a conversation rather than actually having a lesson.
I think it was cool. Like Nicki getting some girls' time in. And, it was good. In Spanish.
And has it felt dangerous at all? That's a question people, they ask that less now because, but have you guys felt safe being here?
That's a great question. No, we have. I mean, in Berlin, it's felt pretty good. I mean, there's been a few drunks on the street.
Yeah, but there's very little razor wire up there, which was quite a pleasant surprise. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, down here, no. But we don't get out that much really. When we go to the market, when we're pretty well known there. I mean, a lot of the guys hustle us for the business. Like we can hear the whistling, like to get our attention as soon as we walk up the street. It's quite funny. They're awesome. And but yeah, we don't. I mean, otherwise we've got a pretty regular routine, which sounds a bit boring. But even though we do get out and do stuff, but no, we haven't had any issues.
Like you were mentioning the razor wire, I was talking to somebody who's building a house now, and the builder was like, okay, and we'll put this there. And he's like, why? I don't need that. And the guy was kind of just perplexed. He's like, well, I don't know. We've always just done that. Yeah. He's like, well, you don't need to do that anymore. You don't need
That's great to hear.
Wire.
Really good.
So you are seeing people start to take that down, start to take bars off the windows when they're building new stuff.
Yeah.
They're not putting those things in. So you can really tell that things are changing here.
No, that's good.
It's fun. I mean, if you feel like excited, the rest of the world feels like it's hurtling off a cliff, and El Salvador seems like it's raising from the ashes.
Yeah,
for sure. Like we definitely noticed that. Like I was saying, like we don't know where else we would go. With the topic of Argentina has come up a number of times because, of course, hyperinflation, and then Milei saying that he'll go to abolish all the central banks, and we know a couple of people who are like, "Well, I'm going down to Argentina," and then it's like other people are like, "There's a hope of looting, and like things are a bit out of control down there," but you don't know how much is sensationalism. But yeah, I think right here, right now seems to be reasonably stable, which is good.
And I think the way I first connected with you guys was through your YouTube channel. So are you guys still filming? Is that still a pretty active part of your life?
Well, we do it weekly live.
Yeah.
And I think the value, if anyone's got any questions, is they can come and ask us questions. So we tell everybody to ask questions in the chat, and then at the end we will answer anybody's questions about Bitcoin or life here in El Salvador. So it's an opportunity for anybody to get live feedback from us. We also answer questions on social.
And we also have our special we'll talk about did you say that? We'll talk
services.
about a service each week as well that we use to help us stay on a Bitcoin standard, which is really beneficial.
Yeah.
So,
We're not paid by any of them. They're literally services that we use. I mean, the old one has a referral link, but yeah, like if anyone wants to know what we're doing to live our best Bitcoin life here, yeah, we share it.
And then we still do the odd. We still do the odd
fun video.
Yeah, I love your unscripted. Andy, can you throw one of those up just so we can give the audience?
All right, road trip, going on an adventure. Going to climb a mountain. It's going to be cool. We got Owen picking us up today, so we're going full driving. It's going to be exciting. You ready, on? Oh yeah, looking forward to it, mate. It's going to be exciting.
That's Owen from Beef Fat Better.
Yeah.
He's looking at me like I'm bloody crazy.
yeah.
So for those of you who are interested in El Salvador already living here, make sure that you are subscribing to their channel. They put out a lot of amazing, just original material that you won't find anywhere else.
Well, thank you.
And I think you guys have been surprised. You've had a lot of Salvadorans that have been following you guys that are living in the U.S. and interested to come back. And you guys are kind of their inspiration.
Yeah. The Salvadoran community has been super supportive. We think it's a lot of them that are living outside of El Salvador, a lot in the States and Canada especially. And so many of them are just like, thank you for going to my country. Thank you for sharing my country. It's so cool to see it. I'm looking forward to coming back. Even like we bump into people that are like, oh, wow, I've seen you guys online. You inspired me to come back. We talked about that last time, I think, as well, someone that we met. But yeah, it's super cool.
I mean, you guys are kind of a little bit famous. I mean, people know who you are. They're like, that's, as my wife will tell people, she's like, it's kind of like being famous in like the quilting world. Like, the general population doesn't know, but there's just one little niche that know who you are. So
I like that.
And if you are in El Salvador and you haven't been up here, it's awesome.
Yeah,
and it's such a cool walk, and the views are stunning.
Yep.
Where is that?
El Peña, which is in Camasagua. Yeah, so it's not far from here at all. Yeah.
Right near here.
Yeah. So we went up in the dry season, and Owen has a awesome Toyota 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
We know some friends who tried to go up in the wet season, and it was a different story.
Yeah.
But it was cool. Great to see the views overlooking Tammany sort of valley. The drive up there. No, it's awesome. I mean, there's some cool spots. You can see how, even though El Salvador is 1/10. It's only 1/10 of New Zealand.
Yeah.
So have I got that around the right way?
Yeah.
New Zealand is 10 times larger in land area, but you've got the same population here. But then you go there and you just see all this farmland. That's pretty cool.
So where we have our coffee farm, it's kind of further up in the hills from there, but you can see this location down there sticking out. Yeah. It's kind of the monument there in the middle.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. And that, like in Berlin, you've got these amazing vistas as well. They've got a few miradors or lookouts where you can go and check it out. And it's cool. Like, there's some days you just get like the, what do you call it, static mist.
Oh, the mist, and it just sort of blows out because you've got these miradors and they're on the sort of pinnacle of the ridge line, or on the ridge line, and you're looking down and the mist will come flying around. It's just it's really.
It is eerie, and it's not like, sometimes in places like that it's super cold. It's refreshing, but it's not like crazy cold, and so it's fun to sit up there and have the mist swirl around you, especially if the sun's kind of setting and shining through it.
Yeah.
Are there hotels in
great
Berlin?
Question.
Yes.
So there is a hostel, which we've stayed at 3 times now, I think, and she accepts Bitcoin.
Okay, what's the name of the hostel?
Oh my gosh, El Cedro Hostel.
Okay, is it the only hostel in town?
Pretty much.
I think so. Well, it's definitely the one that accepts Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So it's on the.
But if they come into town and ask, like,
it's on the Bitcoin Beach map.
Yes,
okay,
it's on the the Blink Wallet map. So if you've got the Blink Wallet, I think it may now also be on btcmap.org. And I mean, if you reach out to Bitcoin Berlin SV on Twitter, they will also point you in the right direction. And they've got a video with Irma, the owner, talking about her experience with Bitcoin and why she got into it.
Yeah.
She's lovely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
She's really cool.
Yeah. So there isn't much, to be honest. It's an accommodation there yet at this point in time. I imagine there'll be a few things will start. Yeah.
You guys are
the
vanguard of this new movement.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, we're blown away by what the locals are doing and the businesses and the motivation. It was definitely a large part. I mean, there's a whole heap of things. It's not one thing that's like it, but we've been questioning what we do for probably at least the last 4 months. And it was getting out and doing things and seeing what was happening. And this one just ticked a whole heap of boxes, and we're like, let's do it. It's time for a change.
Time for a change.
Yeah, this is what we're here for. So that's cool.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'll have to come visit you when I'm tired of sweating here at the beach. And
we have a fresh bar of soap for you.
Yeah.
I know we had a heap of pictures. I don't think we got through them all, but was there anything specific that we missed that you think we need to make sure we hit on? Or it doesn't have to be the pictures, just in general. Or topics that you think people need to hear about?
Oh, yes. Well, yes. Thank you. Great. We did. So my first Bitcoin, they put out the English diploma. And when it came out, Nicki had this brilliant idea. Hey, let's do one chapter once a week for 10 weeks. So we have gone and invested the time to read my first Bitcoin diploma to everybody on YouTube. So if you don't want to read it yourself, you can listen to us go through it, which is really cool.
And that's on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's a playlist.
Which is, what do they type in to find it?
NJ El Salvador. So Nicki James. So NJ El Salvador.
Just the initials, NJ
but
El Salvador.
Do it as one word.
Okay.
Or if that doesn't work, it's YouTube seems to find us now. In the beginning, it used to
find everything else El Salvador.
Yeah, it would autocorrect us to El Salvador, but it now knows that we're a thing. Also, what was I going to say? Nicki and James El Salvador. If you type it in full, it'll find us.
Okay.
I'd also like to one other thing that we've done. It was only a couple of months ago. That first trip to Berlin where we went to for my first Bitcoin diploma. We then went to the Nostr Day, which we were here, and Matt actually gave us a Trezor wallet, cold store wallet, and he said, here's a giveaway if you want to use it. And we thought, great. And we're chatting about what we could do.
Nicki had another great idea.
And we were quite inspired by Berlin, even though we'd only been there that one time. And we sort of contacted Evelyn and Gerardo and sort of said, we've got this Trezor wallet we'd love to give away. What we'd like is, because we knew they'd started getting some businesses and some people were getting in behind them. And we said, we'd love to get some photos of anyone who started adopting Bitcoin and would like to be interested in going in the draw to win this. So we ended up using a company we use called Mash, and we actually had a meeting with them. We said we really want to have a poll, and people can do a poll in sats.
So you vote by zapping it.
Yeah, you vote by sat. Yeah,
you can vote like 1 sat or 1,000 or 10,000 sats, and whoever's got the most sats wins the vote.
Yeah, and so we had 10 people from Berlin from the age of 16 to the age of, they would have been in their late 60s, who have adopted Bitcoin, and their businesses are using Bitcoin, and they did a little promo each, and we put it on Twitter. And how many?
We raised 400,000 sats amongst everybody.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool. And gave away a Trezor thanks to Bitcoin landing spot. Yeah,
Mash. It was so good. They've created this, this really good tool for anyone who's wanting to, create something different with zapping sats.
Mash were actually really impressed with how creative Nicki was with coming up with the idea. I was impressed as well. I mean, not just them, but Nicki, sometimes she's like, I don't know if I can contribute enough to this Bitcoin stuff, but she comes up with some awesome ideas.
No, I love all the different ideas. I mean, just the soap alone is,
it blows me away. Literally the other soaps are pretty much the same soap, but the ones with the bee on it, there's something about that branding. Like people just wanted the one with the bee on it.
I keep telling these coconut sellers, they just need one of those little branding irons.
Oh, yes.
And just brand their coconuts, and they will, they can charge a premium for them. Those things will fly out of there, but I haven't seen it done yet. So maybe you can be the one that pushes them to
do that. Yeah. But that was another good event.
Yeah.
I think that was really, and they were so wrapped. They were so wrapped. Sorry, they were so wrapped, pleased, excited that we, that they were able to do something like this.
Yeah.
And Yeah, and everybody got to keep what was zapped to them.
Yeah, so we just fought it on the sets, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So no, it's cool. We try and do fun stuff like that whenever we can, and we share those on our show and our newsletter, and also on our news. I'm going to pump our own newsletter here, but I mean, if anybody wants,
pump your news, pump away.
If anybody does want to know what events are coming up in El Salvador, we also try to keep track of all of the major meetups. So of course we've got the farmers market and the My First Bitcoin and the Bitcoin Beach meetup. Then we've got the Adopting Bitcoin coming up. So if anybody's coming, and you want to see what you can do while you're here, jump on there, because we do our best to keep it up to date every week and move through it.
Where do they find that?
It's on. I tried njlsalvador.substack.com, but I mean, if you go to our Twitter profile, there's a Vita page link where it's got a link to all the main things.
And what's the Twitter handle? Just so everybody.
NJ El Salvador.
Okay.
It's really simple.
Across the board. I like that.
Absolutely.
It was a unique enough name that we could get it on most things. That's good. Thank you.
How far is Berlin from
great question.
La Paria Island?
It's about an hour.
About an hour.
So driving to the beach, and then you got another 20-minute boat ride.
So I think during the Adopting Bitcoin conference, you guys need to get people to come down and do like a morning with you guys, and then go out to the island for sunset.
Oh man,
that's a great idea.
We were going to be at conference. We were going to be at conference.
After the conference.
Yeah, but they're even talking the weekend before conference. They haven't confirmed yet, but they are looking at doing like a Bitcoin farmers market up in Berlin.
Okay.
So that weekend, so they could do that and then go down to Praia as well.
So I think that's still a maybe, but we've heard rumors.
Perfect. So make sure that you follow them on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube. And
if you're
and the newsletter,
and if you're interested in coming to El Salvador, of course, we do have an ebook.
And they can find that by going to the Twitter also.
Yeah, it's on our website.
On our website,
yeah. I mean, there's so many good chat groups out there now. They've got all the information, but I mean, they can be messy too. Trying to find.
No, it's nice when it's all concise and kind of put together in a way that's easy to digest. So.
Absolutely.
There's lots of info out there.
Well, I appreciate you guys doing the second round. I hope this is just the second of many. We'll have to revisit in another 8 months and see how life in Berlin is. And do a little recap on what we're seeing as far as Bitcoin adoption. I think as we get into the halving and the next cycle, I think El Salvador is really going to take people by surprise, because the groundwork's being laid. Like literally everybody knows about Bitcoin. And, probably the majority of them have interacted with it in some way. And there's a significant percentage that are actually very knowledgeable. And so I think in the next run, it's just going to explode. That's my prediction. So you can hold me to that. Wrong, but.
We're very bullish on it, and we think that the Bukele administration is probably waiting for a bull run, for like a very clear sign that we're in the bull run, to probably announce some more interesting things and focus on it again a bit more. And I understand that it's all about timing, and that's cool.
Well, hopefully they've solved the crime and violence issue. If they can solve the Chivo issue before we go into the next run, that would be fantastic.
That'd be really good.
Awesome. Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
We do.
It was my pleasure.
No, thanks,
awesome.
Mike.
Thank you.